Hi, welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I'm going to be making my version of gluten-free tiramisu, which is a lot quicker because instead of making individual ladyfingers, I make a sheet of ladyfinger sponge and then I can soak it with my coffee mixture and it assembles really fast and it's a lot faster and tastes exactly the same. Let me show you how to make it. To get started, I've separated 3 eggs into yolks and whites, and I'm going to start by whipping my 3 egg whites on medium speed until they reach stiff peaks. These egg whites are now stiff peaks, so I'm going to set this aside. You can whip egg yolks in the presence of egg whites because they already have fat in there to whip. So alright, now I'm just gonna take my egg whites that I whipped, take them out, set them aside, and let the egg yolks take a turn with the sugar in my machine with a little vanilla to whip until they're about tripled. And this is adding air since there's some baking powder, but the primary leavening agent in this is gonna be the eggs. Now in with my 3 egg yolks, 100 grams of sugar, and a splash of vanilla extract. And if you have vanilla bean paste, this is also a great time to use it. Now let's whip it again. I consider this about tripled in size. And I'll take this out, set it aside. In another bowl, I'm gonna sift together 155 grams of all-purpose gluten-free mix. This is an Austrian one that I got from Austria. It's more starchy and I think it works better in this recipe. It's airier. There's not any other proteins in this. And I will just be going in with a half teaspoon of baking powder. And this is just to assure that it fluffs up. I'm just gonna stir this together and get it sifted and ready to go for the next step. These last steps are quite easy. I'm gonna fold 1/3 of my flour and then 1/3 of my egg whites, alternating between. And this works without deflating everything so much. I'll show you what the batter looks like right after. When I do this, you want to be careful and make sure that you're folding it up. Not coming from the bottom of the bowl and just pulling up. You don't want to mix this. You shouldn't be mixing it. And with the egg whites, I like to smooth the surface down into an even layer. And then cut it in half, fold from the bottom, pulling everything on the bottom up. And this seems to be the best way, in my opinion, to try not to break all this egg white. And just repeat this until you got it completely together. When you eat the tiramisu, I personally don't really perseverate whether if every single finger is completely soaked with coffee or is it layered in the same way, is it a good pattern? I really just want to enjoy the sponge layer and the cream layer. And to make this a lot easier, a lot less time, a lot quicker, I just bake this as 2 sponges and stack them on top of each other. So I'm just gonna pour out and divide my batter into these 2 8x8 trays. My final tiramisu will go in an 8x8 tray, so that's why I'm just doing 2 8x8 layers. If you have a 16x8 pan, you can easily use that, and then you just need to split the layers in half. If I make a double batch of this, I'll just use a sheet pan that's 16x8 and be able to fit it into something like this. Bake these at 350 degrees in an oven for about 15 to 20 minutes once the tops are golden brown, as I'll show in the next frame. And then I'm gonna let these sit overnight so they can completely cool out and dry out and cool down, so when I pour the cold coffee on, they absorb it like a sponge, and it'll make this moist, even layer that's really delicious. Alright, so these baked up real well. I'm gonna take them out and sit them aside. And I'm only gonna keep one of these pans. If you make the tiramisu in this metal dish, I found that the metal taste went into the coffee. The coffee absorbed this irony, rusty taste from the dish. So I'm going to be using a glass dish to make this easier, which I'm just going to set this aside for later. Here I have 4 egg yolks. And to these egg yolks, I'm going to add 85 grams of sugar. Tiramisu is made with raw egg yolks. You get a fluffier and creamier dessert than if you were to cook these over a double boiler, because when you cook them, they lose a lot of the air that you're about to add. But if you struggle to eat raw egg yolks, you can definitely put this over a water bath and cook it until it's 165 degrees. But I'm not doing that. So I'm gonna whip these until it's about tripled in size. It's got a white ribbon and super fluffy, and the sugar's almost dissolved. Now I'm gonna set this aside. There isn't a great reason to do this in a stand mixer, and if you're not doubling this recipe, I would say just do it in a bowl. But to make it easier to show you guys how to make this dish, I've decided to use it. So now I'm gonna whip 120 grams of heavy cream, or half a cup, until mediums to stiff peaks, with no added sugar, paying attention that it doesn't become butter. These right here are some medium peaks. This did take a while because I don't have much in my machine, but these aren't quite stiff, which is good. I didn't want that. In goes a cup of mascarpone cheese, which is about 222 grams, or it's also an 8-ounce container. Now just give it a mix to emulsify everything together. You're not really adding any air or whipping the cream much longer, just about 30 seconds to incorporate everything. Mascarpone cheese is quite literally cream cheese, where it's cheese made from heavy cream. That's why it's on the more expensive side. It's so much more expensive than cream cheese. But it also makes sense than why when you take whipped heavy cream and mix it with mascarpone, it kind of makes more, and it becomes the same consistency of the mascarpone. Now to move on, I'm going to pour in my egg yolk mixture, fold it together. Now remember, when folding, you go from the bottom to the top, pulling up, just like this, cutting in half and folding, just like with the ladyfinger sponge. Why whip the egg yolks and cream if you're just going to lose all this air? If you don't fold, you're gonna lose it all. And then that makes no sense why you'd whip it in the first place. As much as I enjoy having a good coffee, I learned the hard way that if you have a good caffeinated espresso late at night, you're not gonna sleep well. So I brewed up some decaf, good quality espresso, and I let it cool down to room temperature. I have a 1 3/4 cups here because you need enough to soak the sponge, otherwise it gets hard to eat and it's not as good. To this, I'm going to be adding about a shot of cognac. It's pretty essential for a good tiramisu. To begin, I'm going to take half of my coffee mixture, which it came up to about 2 cups with the addition of the spirit, and I'm going to pour in about a half of my cup, so half a cup, to soak the bottom. And then with a brush, I'm gonna brush on another half cup onto the top. And this ensures that you're soaking the bottom part and the top part, like if you were to dip ladyfingers in this coffee mixture. It can be deceiving how much liquid the sponge can absorb, but I can assure you that you're gonna want this full cup of coffee in this layer. This part's optional. You can dust on a bit of cocoa. I have some Valrhona in between your layers. It adds to the coffee flavor, like a mocha from a cafe. And next, take half of your cream mixture and layer it on. There's 2 layers, so half of your coffee mixture, half of your ladyfingers, and half of your cream. Now that I've finished coating my Ladyfinger, Mona Lisa, and espresso mixture. I can transfer this over to my pan. So to make this easy, I'm just gonna pick it up out of here. It's okay that it broke in half. It's not gonna affect this much. Coat this accordingly, because if there's these bigger clumps from where you couldn't smooth it out completely when you poured the ladyfinger mixture into the pan, you're gonna need to put more mixture so it's absorbed wall to wall. I finished soaking this, so I'm gonna pour on the rest of my mascarpone cream. This is where beauty really matters. So I'm gonna smooth it out real well, getting the cracks and trying to create it level. Makes it look better this way. Don't push too hard though, otherwise you'll start crumbling up the sponge layer. The last part of making this is gonna be sprinkling the tops with some cocoa powder. I got my Canna Valrhona cocoa powder in a shaker, and I'm just gonna create this nice layer that hides the mascarpone. Good desserts like this one need their beauty rest, so I'm gonna let this sit for about 4 to 6 hours until I go to slice it to serve it. Once you're ready to serve, you can take this out of the fridge and slice it into as many pieces as you want it. Here you go. And this is a slice. This is one of my favorite cakes. It's light, it's got coffee, it's perfectly soaked. So, hope you enjoy this. Hope you give it a try. Use some good quality mascarpone and enjoy. Bye. I'd like to thank all my subscribers. At this time of this video, there's 97. I really appreciate you all, and I hope that you can help me get to 100. If you liked the video, just give it a like and comment any questions you have. I will be sure to answer any of them. Hope you make this recipe. Hope you enjoy it, and goodbye.